Hi everyone.
Welcome to our podcast, Health Data Decoded.
I'm Ed Hill.
And I'm Samuel Ball.
We are researchers working at the University of Liverpool in health data science, and we are part of CHILL, the Civic Health Innovation Labs.
CHILL's an interdisciplinary team of researchers, NHS staff, local government and charities looking to use data and artificial intelligence to improve health outcomes in a responsible way.
This work, as well as bring innovation and improvement to health, can also help with our social well-being and the economy.
In this podcast, we'll be interviewing collaborators, researchers and professional support staff within CHILL to better understand what they do in their roles to improve health outcomes for the local area.
We'll be delving into questions such as, what are their day-to-day tasks? How did they get into the role that they currently have? And what advice would they give if you are interested in getting into this area of work yourself?
So join us in our journey to understand better how we can use data to tackle global health challenges and local ones within the Liverpool City region. Hi everyone, and welcome to Health Data Decoded with me, Samuel Ball.
And me, Ed Hill.
So today we've got a full house. We've got the LCTC here. Should we just go around the table and just explain what the LCTC is and who you are?
Yeah, so my name is Efstathia Gkioni. You can call me Evie. I think that's easier. And LCTC stands for Liverpool Clinical Trials Centre. And so we do clinical research.
I'm Rachael Cooper. I'm also a statistician at LCTC. We do a lot of clinical trials. We analyse lots of data that we get in our jobs. But obviously, LCTC covers like a lot of different areas, like trial management, data management, information systems. So we're aware of like everything they do as well.
And I'm Brayshaw, and I'm also a statistician at Liverpool Clinical Trials Unit. And yeah, we work in a lot of different like disease areas and different types of trials.
Brilliant. So I don't think our listeners will know that much about the Liverpool Clinical Trials Centre, and many of them perhaps won't know much about clinical trials in themselves. And then I think you said that two of you or all of you are statisticians. So brilliant. So do you mind explaining a bit how statistics get involved in clinical trials and kind of what the LCTC's role is in that kind of network?
Sure. So, when you design a clinical study, you will need a statistician to be involved from the beginning. So it's like from the protocol development, you will need some input. So it's like the doctor, like the chief investigator, should be in a team with the statistician discussing what they would like to do for the clinical study. And then obviously you have that at the design stage. And then later on, you will need the statistician to be involved on the data collection and define what should be collected in order to prove a specific thing in terms of or drug. And then you always will need the statistician to be involved at the final stage for the data analysis.
Yeah, they're involved right the way throughout. So even you might think there's not much statistics, maybe you think in like the middle stages, but we do lots of monitoring of the data, make sure it's clean, reporting to committees to make sure that obviously the trial conduct's going as it should be. So stats are involved right from the grants to the very end and writing the papers.
So important, isn't it, just to make sure that clinical trials actually operate how they're supposed to, and making sure that we see what we need to see out of it, whether the drug or whatever we're measuring in question works or not. It's hugely important for kind of medicine as a system to work properly, isn't it?
Yeah, it all needs to be rigorous and held to like all the standards that we have. So obviously we answer to the MHRA, which is the big regulatory body in the UK, and then we've got all the other regs like data protection and things that we have to follow. So everything has to be up to like the highest standards to be able to run the clinical trials.
Something we've had when discussing other roles and other areas of the university has been basically there's large teams involved in like delivering projects and delivering activities. So like here, so some people might hear about a clinical trial, so it's like clinicians running something, you've got the patients involved, etc. But then actually, so this has really shown how to actually basically show is the trial, what does the trial deliver, is it effective or not? So we need the statistical side, and the fact that I think it's really important that you said how, and that's involvement from the very start all the way through. So it seems you need this communication between these different groups, and so this interdisciplinary type work is like something we found chatting with other guests seems like really crucial and really important. And so just for, say, your own personal journey, so in terms of statistics and then getting involved, say, in clinical trials work, has it been similar journeys for you, or has it been quite varied? So how have you progressed, say, from your undergrad university study to now being in the role you have?
So in my case, my bachelor was in statistics. I did that in Athens in Greece, and then I did a master in biostatistics, again in Athens. And then I came to Liverpool for my PhD, and this was in clinical studies, and the topic was we focused on statistical models that we can use for recruitment prediction of patients in clinical trials. And it was a European project, so we were in collaboration with University de Paris in Paris. And then Carol Gample, who is the director of the LCTC now, was my supervisor for the PhD. And when I was doing the PhD, we were using some data from recruitment from the studies in order to prove how the models are working and everything. And then so it was after I finished my PhD that I started working as a trial statistician. So I would say it has been step by step coming to where I am now.
That's great, very nice.
Mine sadly not as impressive as that. I went to uni in Liverpool and did the maths undergrad, and then I did a few medical statistics modules, and then sort of thought maybe I'll go and do that. And then I looked at going to Leeds to do my masters, and I missed Liverpool so much, so I had to come back. And then I've been here for now. This is my first job, and I sort of started fresh, and then I've been here for about 3 years now.
Excellent. Yeah.
My pathway is sort of similar to Ella's. I went to Lancaster Uni, did a few medical stats modules. Interestingly, before I went to uni, I quite hated stats. And then it completely changed me at uni. Absolutely loved it, really loved the medical side of it. Then did my masters at Lancaster, and then luckily enough got a job at LCTC, and I've been there since.
It's interesting now, isn't it, about stats before you come to university. I absolutely hated it, and then I ended up in data science as well. So it's a kind of an awful experience at secondary school, I think, and then when you come to university, it kind of changes the perspective.
I think as you progress through undergraduate courses, then you get more specialised as you get towards the later years, and then you get medical statistics, or it's some specific application of statistics, and then as ourselves, we did mathematics undergrad. So in my case, I then went into the mathematical biology area and then the infectious disease modelling side, whereas at the very start of the course it's just algebra analysis. All seems very abstract at that point, but then the application areas by the end of the undergrad is this is cool.
I stayed in pure maths, so none of it was useful at all, which is why I ended up in AI. But so it's obviously you do a lot of statistics. Do you mind just I think it's quite hard to understand. I mean, from a clinical trials perspective, I think it's quite easy to imagine what a clinician would do in a clinical trial and almost the biology and the drug development and the pharmacology would do. But can you just give a day-to-day in what a statistician's role is within the LCTC and within a clinical trial, for example?
So it sort of varies every day. So one day we could be writing a SAP and make that a statistical analysis plan and doing more the written side of it. But then other days you might be doing just more the monitoring and making little reports, and then other days you could be making huge final analysis reports and working through the stats that you've written within the SAP.
Yeah, you could also be designing a trial one day and looking at the sample sizes and what best fits for that trial and what's the best analysis in the plan. There's lots of room for studying still as well, because we were discussing this earlier, there's lots of training opportunities that we have as well in our work, little journal clubs, coding sessions, webinars you can attend, so it's quite nice and varied.
I think one of the interesting things, particularly from, my perspective, because in AI we literally can't do sample size predictions, it's just not really possible at all. But do you mind explaining a little bit for our listeners about why sample size calculations are important from the clinical trial perspective in order to kind of power your studies correctly?
Yeah, so like you will need to define that in collaboration with the clinician. So from that discussion, you will need like to understand what the exact question is, and then based on the test that you are going to apply afterwards, you will need to decide like how many patients you will need in order to prove that hypothesis. So it's very important that that is described in details and documented correctly, and then apart from like having that, then like another statistician is involved in checking that all the assumptions have been met so that we have like the right sample size. And obviously this is important for the results afterwards, because we will need like any kind of results that we will get from a clinical study to be interpretable like to the general population. So that's why I think that the importance of like sample size should be well defined from the beginning.
It's just so important, isn't it? Just to make sure that everything's robust and
Exactly.
And when we say a treatment is working, we're assured as we can be that the whole process is being followed properly.
And like within LCTC, we have like the SOPs, as we call them, like the standard operating procedures. So we need to follow those, or like every step, like from the sample size to the final analysis. So we make sure that everything is well defined and then documented, and it has been done properly. Yeah.
So I think that highlights the fact there is regulations and operational procedures which have to be followed. So some might be set, say, by institution, but then you've got the health regulatory bodies as well. Yeah. And so I suppose over time there might be changes in what they would ask. So I guess that means you have to be aware of that, and in your own work ensure then that's part of or you have to revise previous plans, etc. So you're compliant. So that might be one additional area. So it's the actual statistical analysis work that you do. There's all this regulation side as well. And then is there also any opportunities for you to present your work to elsewhere and to different audiences as well?
Yeah, so quite a lot of the time the chief investigator, like the doctor leading the study, for example, would present the final results. But throughout the trial, if you're doing like different methodologies and things, we can have opportunities to like put abstracts into conferences and present at them. I know there's the ICTMC coming up in September, which I think the trials unit might put some abstracts into, which is a big clinical trials conference as well.
We did a few posters at the last one that was in Edinburgh.
Nice.
About QC of stats code, and we did one on the registry trials that we work on.
Yeah, so it's so good, isn't it, when almost the methodology kind of takes the centre stage and you're able to show off the excellent work that you do, because it's so important. It is at the centre of a clinical trial is that data analysis, just to make sure that everything's being done correctly.
Yeah, and it's nice that like all the trials are like, loads of people think, oh, it's just a clinical trial, it's all the same. I don't think I've worked on a trial that's the same. Like everything's different, like data collection will be different, you'll be in with a different team of people, and things like that. Like it's nice different methodologies to learn and see. You can eventually go down a route of specialising, but like when you're early in your career, you can get a nice range to like see what you do like.
I think the thing that always surprised me, I went to an event earlier this year that was around cancer, and I think they didn't really know what to do with me, because I kind of turned up and I said, I kind of do a lot of image processing, and they kind of looked at that and said, oh, you're a statistician, so join the clinical trials group. And I sat through this meeting and I was like, oh my God, there's so much stats that I didn't kind of know I didn't know about, kind of thing. It was really kind of mind-blowing how much work there has been done in trial design, just to make sure everything was going on. I remember there was one statistician who goes, everyone knows about the 3+3 trial design, and I was like, oh, I don't. Like, can someone explain to me why this isn't very good? So it was just absolutely mad, just all the things that were going on there. So I think it's really interesting that the methodology is just developing. So I mean,
I'm just thinking about the international perspective at these events, and so this is where I'm completely unaware, but so internationally, might there be different protocols people have to follow to adhere to their, say, national regulatory body? So I'm just saying, at these events, do you see people presenting from other countries or areas ever, and the trial they've got is like, oh, that's like surprising, or what they've done is that's something which in our system you might not be able to do, or you'd have to do it in a different way. So I guess I'm just curious how varied it can be internationally.
You can run from one protocol across different countries because we've got a few trials which have sites abroad. But obviously that comes with complexities that I think more trial management deal with than statistics in the regulatory side of it, and making sure like your protocol's approved in every country, your amendments are through in every country, because different countries have different ways of looking at it. So like the UK just has like the MHRA and their ways, but other countries might split up the regulatory bodies or ethics into like regions and stuff. So it might be a bit harder to run it that way.
Cool. No, interesting, thanks.
I suppose one question I have as well, so when we talk about these international conferences around trial design and improving trial design, I think from my perspective, and again this comes back to this cancer talk I went to, I think I'd never thought before about how improved trial design actually has an impact on recruitment or end users. Do you kind of mind just talking a bit about why trial methodology research has a benefit to kind of patients throughout the process in terms of more powerful trials or more efficient trials or that kind of thing?
It's very important that how things can be like improved, or like, for example, like in terms of patient's perspective, like how you are going to collect your data, or it's like the traditional ways that you have hospitals, which we call sites, and then the patient is in contact with the research nurse, for example, and they complete the forms for them, or you could have like apps or like different devices that you could use in order to collect the data, and then it is the patient who is like using the device. And so like there are different ways to collect the data. It can be challenging for the patients to go to the hospital to do the visit and everything, in terms of commuting, in terms of the disease they have, or how they will react to the treatment. So they may prefer like to use an app and just like log in the data and everything. So it's like there are different ways. You just need to make sure that with like the data checks that we are trying to do throughout the trial, that we get the correct data, and if there are any issues there with the patients not being able to use either phone or an app or anything, like any device, you just make sure that they should be able to use that, and then check on them and also check the data and see what the problems are, what the challenges are.
I suppose it's all about getting more people access to these trials and easier to do as well.
Yeah, there's also been growth in the design area of like Bayesian and adaptive designs. So they're like a bit of I'm trying to think of a simpler, nicer way to put it. They're a bit more flexible-ish. So you could put in an interim analysis where you would do a formal analysis at a certain time point, and you might be able to say if you've got a 3-arm trial, you could drop an arm if it's not good enough, or if it's too toxic, you stop the treatment earlier, so like you're not exposing people to things that either aren't benefiting them or are making them ill, for example, with lots of side effects. So there's lots of work going on in methodology in different areas that will benefit patients, because they'll either maybe more quickly get a better treatment, or they'll stop treatments that are more harmful, for example, sooner.
I suppose it's interesting, isn't it, about trial methodology? It's quite a statistical area of research, but it has such an immediate impact on patients in clinical trials, as you said, about toxicity, but also about positive benefits of treatment. Yeah. So I think in your role, I mean, all of you come from a statistical background, but obviously the clinical trial kind of environment is multidisciplinary. You talk to clinicians, you talk to lots of different stakeholders. Are there any skills that you've picked up in the role that you kind of didn't really think about when you joined the LCTC?
Something I'm not scared of anymore, but presenting. Like, I never thought I'd have to present to so many, like, clinical people and then describe the stats in such a clinical way and then make it all make sense and do it on the spot. And
yeah.
Yeah.
Communication's so difficult, isn't it? Yeah.
I think the clinical knowledge as well that comes with that. So, like, to be able to write your stats analysis plans and understand the data and to do everything that we do, you've got to have some form of clinical knowledge about the trial that you're doing and what would look normal, what would look right, what's an outlier. So you get quite a lot of clinical knowledge that you never thought you might gain by doing the clinical trials.
Yeah. I think I've sat in a room and I've confused organs of the body, and clinicians looked at me and they're like, "Why are you here?" But I kind of have to sit there and say, "I'm not a medical person. Please don't shout at me." But, yeah.
That's where getting in the multiple different perspectives being said collectively, you can having that then hopefully means you can then have a stronger overall analysis.
Yeah, it's definitely teamwork, isn't it?
Teamwork for sure, team science, and so science communication. I think that in itself is such a skill set, and so it's an area of expertise which I think we all then develop through learning on the job. I think essentially a lot of the time. So you end up in these settings and then chatting to a different end user, a different stakeholder, and then you start learning, oh, this is information which they need, therefore I need to present it in this way, or this is the effective way to convey that to them. And then equally, the questions they might ask initially might not be something that we can analyse with the methods that we have, but through then conversation, it's like, okay, but you've asked that question, but if we reframe it, it's like we can use our techniques to answer this question. Is that useful for you?
Yeah.
So
that is sometimes part of designing the trial as well, drilling down to what they actually want, because they might have one idea in the head, but actually the other way is better, or the other way is like the best way of modelling the data or interpreting the data, for example. It's quite a challenge, but it's a nice challenge sometimes.
That's it. And if everyone was just in their silos, not talking to each other, you might just be given, oh, answer this for us. But it's like, but we can't answer that. But there's no way to then work out what can we usefully do.
Yeah.
Equally, if someone just gets given a data set and you just do some analysis on it, and then it's just pass back, and it's just like, but that's not giving us the information we need to make our decision point.
Yeah.
So science communication, I mean, absolutely, this is such a core area across so many roles now, which I'd say perhaps we don't celebrate enough. It is a skill, and yeah, we should celebrate it. Cool. So I think just to close, and something we're asking all our guests is, so in your respective roles, is there any advice you would give to people who would say like to progress in, get involved in kind of clinical trials, statistics work, or perhaps medical statistics more generally?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I really like what we do. So obviously there are some great days, some not so great days, but overall, I think it's a very, very interesting field, and I would like to believe that we do have a tiny contribution into medical research, and we kind of we are doing our best to show some progress. So I would say if people like math, and then also the combination with medicine, I think it's a great thing to do. If you are interested, obviously, in those areas.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Abby said. If you are interested in maths, and even the areas you might not think you're interested in at a time, like we've also with college or high school hated stats, to give everything a chance, and maybe you'll find that right path. We've all found the right path, and we enjoy our job. We're in such an encouraging and supportive environment at work as well, so it's a really nice place to be.
I think for me it's if you're wanting to go into something where you want to apply your maths into something real world, it's a really good opportunity to do that. And also working in an academic trials unit, we always get the opportunity to learn more, and still we learn every day, which I think is a good opportunity for us.
Absolutely, I say we never stop learning, and so that's great. And I just say thank you for the tremendous work that you and your colleagues do in the centre, because I think it very much is directly impactful to improving the healthcare of us all. So yeah, thanks.
Yeah, it's a huge system, isn't it? And it's so important for clinical trials to be run smoothly and correctly. And if it wasn't for statisticians, then well, we like to think that things would have been done properly, but I think we all know that you kind of need the stats to keep things on the straight and narrow.
Definitely, but we are one little cog in a big team of people as well, with everyone else who supports us and does the other parts of the work as well.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming on. It was great talking to you. Thank you for listening to us. That was Health Data Decoded. If you liked this episode, you can subscribe on YouTube or on Spotify, and hopefully we'll see you for the next episode.